We would be honored if you would join us.
And who might you be?
You stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder. I love you.
I know.
Hi everyone and welcome to Frozen in Carbonite. It's a new year and I've been noticing a lot of new players buying new sets and starting up the game, and everyone always needs a place to start, and it's been a long time since I've seen anything tutorial wise. I mean, we've got the FFG videos which they put out when the game first come out, but they're not always easy to understand, and it's been quite a while now since they come out. And the only other tutorial I know of is a Team Covenant video where Zach and Stephen go through a game trying to explain what happens. And I thought, there's lots of channels out there that show games. I mean, I've been showing games. You've got the Yoda's Hut and you've got Fully Ops. We've all been putting up games where you can see what happens, but sometimes for new players it's difficult to understand what is actually happening. And I think it's about time maybe we explained it a bit better, split it down really into its core mechanics, and then throw in a little bit of players tips and stuff like that. So I plan to do, hopefully they won't take too long, but some short videos which hopefully will explain the phases, but also try and explain some of the nuances that you have to look out for in those phases. So these type of videos won't apply to all players. I mean, those who are already know the game really well probably don't need to know this. But for those who are getting into it, trying to make sense of what's going on in those videos of full games, it might be a good starting off point, I'm hoping. And from there, hopefully with the players tips, hopefully just give you some understanding of things to look out for. If you're looking for more like high level type play, then I'd probably recommend, once you've got a grasp of the core mechanics and everything, go watch some of the World Champions videos, or go listen to some of the podcasts like Holding All the Cards podcast, who talk about more of the high level play and the more detailed nuances of the game. But for this one, I just wanted it to be something for the beginners to get to work with, and hopefully provide a bit of support for them getting into the game. Okay, so that's the intro, and I hope you enjoy the videos. Right then everyone, I'm going to start off with the timing structure diagram that's at the back of the rulebook, because it breaks down the phases. So we have 6 phases altogether. We've got the balance phase, the refresh phase, the draw phase, the deployment phase, the conflict phase, and the force phase. So in this first video, we're going to talk about the balance phase. It's probably one of the more simplest of the phases, but there are some minor nuances which I'll get to that may be of interest to you. So we start with the balance phase. So the balance phase is broken down into a few steps, and is denoted by framework events. Now, framework events, as it states in the rulebook, are mandatory. Now, the rulings on these framework events do have a slightly different meaning to when you're actually reading it in the main rulebook. Well, I'll get onto that when we get to that. So at the very beginning of the game, and it's depending on which side you're playing, the balance phase begins. So the first thing you do is, if you are the dark side player and it's your turn, you increase the Death Star dial by 1. And then if you happen to have control of the force, you then give an additional dial tick on the dial. So if you get 2 ticks if you have the force, and you get 1 tick if you don't. Now, if it's the light side player's turn, you get to deal 1 damage to the objective. Now, in the main part of the rulebook, when you're reading the balance phase, there's a keyword here that it says you may deal 1 damage to 1 dark side objective. So the option there is that you don't have to deal damage. If it's something that's if your only target available is something that is detrimental to your game, you might not want to put damage on there, especially with in the current meta that we're currently in. Depending on when you're watching this, Navy has the ability to pass damage back to you, so by damaging one of their objectives, you're actually possibly doing yourself more harm. So and then the balance phase ends. But that's the main breakdown of the balance phase. So some things in the balance phase though you have to look out for. So one of the things you have to look out for is that each phase is a start point and an end point. So the balance phase has a start point, so you should check for any reactions or interrupts to the start of a phase. Now, there's not too many cards out there that interact to the start of the phase, but there are some. Right, so one unit that has a reaction to the start of the phase is Luke Skywalker. Now, the start of the balance phase is also the beginning of an opponent's turn, depending if it's the other side. So Luke's reaction reads, after your opponent's turn begins, remove 1 focus token from this unit. So Luke's reaction would kick in as soon as the balance phase begins, before you do any dial clicks or anything. So you would take a focus token off him if he was already focused. So aside from cards like Luke who react to the beginning of the phase, there are some cards that can trigger their reactions or interrupts to the dial clicking, and one of those cards is Force Cleansing from the Obi-Wan set in the Balance of the Force Deluxe set. So Force Cleansing reacts to, after the Death Star dial increases, remove 1 focus token and 1 damage from enhanced unit. So key thing to remember with this type of card, if you are using it, is that when you are ticking the dial up, there are 2 occurrences if the dark side has the force that this could trigger. So it could trigger off the first dial tick, and then it can also trigger off the second dial tick. So that's one thing to be aware of that can also happen during the balance phase. So other things that happen in the balance phase, if you're ticking the dial, you have to then check that if the dial has reached 12, then that means the dark side has won the game. So that check has to happen during the balance phase if during those dial ticks it has gone to 12. Also, another one to check is if the light side player destroys an objective with the damage they do from the balance phase, which could result in them winning the game. That was also a game winning point just to be aware of. So once you've got those bits out of the way, then there could possibly, can't remember of any cards that do, but you then have the end of the balance phase. So it's possible that there could be cards or reactions that trigger off the end of the phase. And so just one more nuance to the balance phase and phases in general is there's this type of card interaction. So we have Grand Moff Tarkin. Now he has reaction and Luke has reaction. Now Luke's reaction happens after your opponent's turn begins. You remove 1 focus token from this unit. Tarkin's reaction is after a phase begins, spend 1 Navy resource to treat a target card's printed text box as if it were blank, except for traits until the end of the phase. Now, because it's the opponent's turn, which would mean dark side player's turn, Darkseid has priority on his turn on reaction triggers. That means any reactions at a certain point. So in this case, they both react to the turn beginning or the beginning of a phase. Tarkin on the Darkseid turn gets to react first. So Tarkin could use his ability, if he has one resource available, to blank Luke to prevent Luke from using his reaction to take a focus token off of him. So that's something to be aware of, that if you're using Tarkin now, some people use Tarkin to blank units during the other phases, like the conflict phase. It's probably key to get rid of some battle type of abilities and things like that. But one known one is this reaction is preventing Luke from freeing up a focus token. So that's one of my probably only one of my top tips about stuff you can do during the balance phase. And that pretty much sums up the balance phase.